Dalal Street manages to end in the green despite large cap underperformance. Nifty and sensex end mildly in the green. Nifty bank and mid cap index outperform, gains over 0.5%.
Supreme Court clarifies on last week's Vodafone Idea order, says that the government is free to consider relief on the overall AGR dues. The Apex Court last week had permitted the government to consider relief on additional AGR dues.
The festive October spelled good tidings for car and two-wheeler makers with strong sales, though mostly in line with expectations. Big outperformance was seen in commercial vehicles and tractors.
Japan's Mitsubishi Financial Group is in advanced talks to buy 20% stake in Shriram Finance. That's a report from Money Control. The deal could be worth around $4 billion. Shriram Finance management says multiple discussions are underway and no proposal is before the board as yet. You're with us here on Markets Forward, your go-to show where we aim to get you all the key data points to gear up for the next trading day. I'm Bandopadhyay. With me is Vinny Motiwala. Vinny, it was a quiet start to this truncated week. Of course, there are a lot of earnings reactions that have been coming in, but a fairly range-bound day for the index for sure.
Absolutely, a range-bound day, but no complaining there. Nothing as a screen of red that we should be worried about. 25,700 is what the Nifty managed to hold on to. Sensex also managing to hold on to gains. Nifty Bank, that's where we saw good performance coming in, right? 0.6% of gains there. PSU banks were the ones which were outperforming in the banking side as well. Other than that, the mid and small cap, so the broader end of the market, that did well. So that, look at it. When you look at the Nifty mid cap, that managed to hold on to gains of 0.6%, and small cap also managed to hold on to gains of almost 0.7%. Advance decline ratio was a bit more skewed towards the advances versus the declines. We had around 1,500 stocks on the advance side versus declines of around 1,000 stocks. This was on the NSE. So advance decline ratio a bit more in the favor of advances versus decline. No complaining today, a good day coming in. But let's start with the first segment for the day as well. We've Gaurav joining in with us, who's joining us from the big wall to take us through the top movers and shakers. Gaurav, over to you.
Well, yes. When we look at top movers and shakers, first name which comes in the mind today is Vodafone Idea, because we saw a big jump, and this is after the Supreme Court who suggested that government is free to consider any relief in the AGR dues. After that, we saw a sharp uptick in this counter. Apart from that, we also saw Thakkar Jewelry actually reporting its number. They reported 58 crores of PAT, and at the same time, they also said that the jewelry segment, they saw growth of around 77%. After that, we saw stock hitting 20% upper circuit. We also saw Dredging Corp. Here also we saw the stock actually hit its 20% upper circuit today, and the reason being that they said that the company is going to invest around 4,000 crores dedicated to modernization of the company, and at the same time they also signed multiple MOUs worth 17,645 crores. Other than that, a few stocks who actually deserve some shout out. First is Shriram Finance. The stock hit its 52-week high, and this is after the strong second quarter result that they reported, and at the same time the commentary also remains strong. When we look at Bank of Baroda, this stock also reported a good set of numbers, and after that today it hit its 52-week high. Let's also not forget about AB Capital. This stock actually reported its number last week, but after that today we saw some gains in this counter as well. Other than that, we also have some volume-led gainers in the likes of Vocard, SW Solar and Home First Finance. Remember, Home First Finance is likely to report its numbers tomorrow, so let's watch out on that. On the losing side, we saw Zensar Tech, and this is because of the results. We saw after stable set of results and miss in revenue, we saw some kind of hit in the stock price. NetWeb also reported stable numbers, but after that, we saw the market did not take it very well. And on the flip side, we also saw Reliance Power, Reliance Infra, and the stock like Aptus Value, who lost its value almost more than 5%. So definitely, it was an interesting day today, but as Horma said, it was more in the favor of gainers in a day today.
Indeed. Gaurav, thank you for that update. To take the conversation forward, joining us now is Sudip Bandopadhyay and Jay Thakkar. Gentlemen, thank you for joining in. Jay, it was a very range-bound session today, but what are the important levels that you are watching out for on the index now?
Good afternoon to you, Homa. As well, Nifty, after having, bounced back till 26,100 from, previous, range of 24,500 to 25,500, we had a unidirectional move once it took off 25,000 levels, Homas, and, step by step, it gained the momentum when it took off 25,500 as well. But then after having, reached 26,000, 26,100 levels, we saw some profit booking coming in. So, the short covering move, which we have seen, Hormaz, until the, October series, that went well. And as soon as the November series has started, we have seen the FI again creating short build-up in the index futures, as well as we have seen an aggressive selling in the equity cash segment as well by the FIs. And because of which now the index has taken some breather or a pause. So now the range for Nifty, Hormaz, for me is 25,600 to 26,100. I don't see in tomorrow's expiry Nifty closing above the levels of 26,000. But on the flip side, I would say that 25,600 on the downside is a very critical support area as well. So this is a 4 to 500 points range within which Nifty is likely to consolidate for some time, as well as Nifty Bank as well as Fin Nifty. These are the three main indices which are likely to consolidate for some time. And once this consolidation is over, I'm expecting a breakout on the upside, which will definitely help Nifty to move towards this lifetime highs or maybe even beyond those levels. One thing to notice, Hormaz, is that despite this consolidation, which is happening in the large cap stocks mainly, or the Nifty Bank Nifty, the mid cap stocks or maybe mid cap Nifty is inching higher day on day, and that's been outperforming the Nifty because that was earlier underperforming it, but now is outperforming. And I think that the overall broader market strength is quite there. So once this consolidation is over, I'm expecting market to provide a breakout on the upside because of the broader market which are looking positive. So Nifty short-term trend is sideways, but the positional trend is still positive.
Okay, thanks for those levels that we'll be keeping an eye out on in terms of the markets. But let's go across to Sudarshan now, who is here to tell us, what the auto sales numbers in October looked like, because that festive cheer seemed like it came into this October sales numbers as well. But what is the breakup there? What did well? What outperformed? Sudarshan is here for more details.
So it was the first full month of the recent impact of the recent GST rate cut and the festive season. And most of the companies have reported numbers, and those numbers were largely in line or slightly better than expectations. The biggest positive surprise was the performance of commercial vehicle segment. And both the companies, Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland, have reported sales much better than expectations. Tata Motors, both the segments, passenger vehicle as well as commercial vehicle segments, have done good. And for passenger vehicle, the growth was led by SUV segment, and growth was 27%. Commercial vehicle segment, after several months, has seen a healthy growth of 10%. For Ashok Leyland, it was an all-round beat. And the positive surprise was the bus segment, which has been underperforming for the last several months. This month, it has seen a healthy growth of 34%. For Mahindra and Mahindra, both the segments, auto as well as tractor segments, have reported sales largely in line. For auto segment, the growth was led by SUV, which has seen a growth of 27%. Tractor segment has seen a growth of 13% versus our expectation of almost flat YOY. For Maruti, sales were largely in line, and it was led by compact and SUV segment. Entry-level segment, two cars, Alto and Espresso, sales continue to see a decline. One company that has underperformed the peers is Hyundai, because domestic sales have seen a decline, while exports have seen a muted growth of 11%. In two-wheeler space, all the three companies, TVS Motor, Bajaj Auto and Eicher Motors Royal Enfield, have reported sales largely in line. And the positive surprise came from Eicher Motors Royal Enfield, which has said in the festive season, it has done a growth of 26%, which is much higher than the monthly average. So overall, it was a good month for the auto companies.
A good one indeed, Sudarshan. Thank you for that update. The other big result that came out during the market hours was Tata Consumers, and Mangalam is here to tell us more on the fine print. Mangalam.
Well, it was a good performance coming in from Tata Consumer. It was a top-down beat. The revenues neared 5,000 crores as against street expectations of 4,800 crores. More importantly, the EBITDA followed as well, 672 crores. The street was working with a number of 630 crores. And the net profit that they reported in the second quarter was closer to 400 crores as against street expectations of a little over 360 crores as well. The India business, that's the one that led growth, 14%, in fact 19% growth as against expected 12 to 14%. Beverages grew 15% as against expectations of 6 to 8%. And Capital Foods and Organic India continued their run rate of 356 crore as against street expectations of 330 to 350 crores. And growth businesses, which include the likes of Sampann, Soulful, as well as the Capital Foods and Organic India, along with Narishko Beverages business, grew 27%. The company has been maintaining guidance of 30% growth. Now this accounts for nearly 32% of their sales. International constant currency revenue growth at 9%, higher than street range of 6 to 8%. And the India beverages business grew 12%, which was led by 5% volume growth. Coffee continued its 56% jump, and we saw salt also grow about 16%, led by value-added salts, which grew by 23%. All in all, good performance coming in. The management commentary of lower tea prices should, bode well for margins going ahead.
Okay, Mangalam, thanks so much for that. Sudeep, coming to you, Tata Consumers, Godrej Consumers, both of them have reported their numbers. How are you looking at Tata Consumers in terms of numbers? And in FMCG, what specifically are you looking at right now?
Well, Vinny, I did like Godrej Consumer numbers. I think after many quarters, their numbers have been pretty encouraging. Also, the acquisition of Moustache, which they announced along with the numbers, is a very interesting acquisition, because that's one space where there is significant growth coming, and this acquisition should help them navigate that area. Also, the international business have shown initial signs of giving positive results to the consolidated numbers, and I think on a peer comparison basis, the valuation also looks interesting. So Godrej Consumer, definitely I would keep watching with interest. As far as Tata Consumer is concerned, I think a pretty good set of numbers. Of course, we'll have to watch how things move on from here as far as the new businesses and the international businesses. Interesting set of numbers, that much I would say, but I'll keep a watch for this.
Indeed, that was Tata Consumer and Godrej Consumer. The other sector that was in the spotlight today was the cement space. JK Cement declining on a not so good quarter, but Ambuja did well. Nigel is here with more on this. Nigel.
Well, that's right. Let's start off with Ambuja Cements. Actually, the numbers look quite good. On the consolidated basis, the revenue growth was close to around 22%, while the EBITDA number jumped up by close to around 50%. Even the profitability looked good, but keep in mind there was a tax credit that came in there, and that's why those numbers look quite good. If you look at the volumes, good growth is what you've seen. Remember, they have bought a couple of entities, so that's why inorganic growth played out, and that explains the big surge in terms of volumes. On the EBITDA per ton front, they're back over the 1,000 rupees as per what the company had reported, which compares with around 800 rupees or thereabouts. So good improvement in profitability. The management has clarified that the group synergies are playing out, and that's clearly visible in the numbers. They go on to state that in the second half of the year, they're expecting the cost of production actually to fall by close to around 200 rupees odd, because of these efficiencies that they're working on, the reduced lead distance as well, and higher proportion of renewable power as well. Besides a good operational performance, they also say that currently the cost of production is roughly around 4,000 rupees per ton, which they see headed to around 3,650 rupees per ton. In addition to this, they've gone ahead and upped their capacity guidance from around 140 million tons. Now they're talking about 155 million tons, and this will be done at a sharp discount to what the current cost of setting up a cement plant is, around $48 per ton or thereabouts is the number that they're talking about. Moving to JK Cement, well, the stock had run up considerably. It saw a bit of a correction, but the numbers were a little bit soft. So the EBITDA number missed what Jefferies was working with by close to around 5%. How did that happen? Well, volume growth was actually good because they are growing at a faster clip in comparison to the industry. The volume growth is close to around 13% on a consolidated basis. Though if you look at the core grey cement sales, well, that was up by close to around 16% or thereabouts. So volumes are good, but some costs were relatively higher, which caused the EBITDA miss. The EBITDA did miss Jefferies' estimates by close to 5%, which explains why the stock did see a bit of a correction. The net debt level as well did move up. If you look at it, the standalone net debt number came in excess of around 3,000 crore rupees. So a tale of two. Ambuja's numbers quite good, while JK Cement did see some selling, or as their numbers were a little bit softer.
Nigel, thank you for that update. Sudip, what about the cement stocks? You stick with the leader, the largest player in the country, or do you bet on the smaller options who are still acquisition targets, and or bet on the second largest player on the hopes that they would do more acquisitions and catch up with the leader?
No, almost. I will stick with the leader. In fact, I've been recommending, even on your channel, frequently UltraTech Cement. I think, it's a fantastic long-term buy, even at current levels. The performance has been outstanding, and it's been outstanding for many quarters now. The cost efficiencies, the way they have extracted, amazing. The acquisition, of course, they are doing, and consolidation they are doing. The demand is good. The sales volume have been improving. The greenfield, capacity addition which they have announced at a very low per unit per ton cost, I think also is very, very encouraging. So overall, I think I will rather stick with the the leader than go with some of the uncertain acquisition targets and things like that. So it's better to play safe under the current circumstances.
Right. And of course, that was the cement space. The other major news of the afternoon was Vodafone Idea. And after the Supreme Court clarified that the government is free to consider relief on both additional and reassessment of all AGR dues. And the cash-strapped Vodafone Idea currently owes almost 83,500 crore worth of AGR dues. Ashmit is joining in with more on this. Ashmit, what does this mean for Vodafone Idea now?
Well, there's a big relief coming in for the troubled telecom player. Bear in mind that the last Supreme Court order had caused confusion to the extent that it appeared from that last order that the only relief that the government could grant was with respect to only the additional AGR dues, which would be about 9,500 crore rupees, and not the overall, the large mammoth figure of total AGR. That was one correction with which Vodafone Idea knocked on the doors of the Apex Court once again. Flanking Vodafone Idea counsels were also the Solicitor General appearing on behalf of the DOT. They both gave a similar view that there was indeed a correction that was required, that the Apex Court had caused confusion, and that is what needed to be rectified. The Supreme Court responding to that by saying that yes, indeed there was an issue, and towards that end clarifying that the government can go ahead and grant relief on both these counts. Additional AGR dues of 9,500 crore rupees, as well as the original total AGR figure of over 83,000 crore rupees, which includes penalty, which includes interest. So that is the flexibility that now the Apex Court has given the government. And this is critical, given as how when we had asked the government after the last order, they had said that we're not clear, we need a legal opinion. So finally, a legal opinion being given by no less than the Apex Court that yes, the hands of the DOT are untied. They can grant relief on both the counts, especially the overall large total AGR figure.
Absolutely, Ashmit. Thank you so much for that. An important relief and update coming in there for Vodafone Idea. Jay, what's your view for Vodafone Idea now? With this relief coming in as well, where can we see it headed?
Sure, Vinay, there isn't much of, I would say, leverage position as far as the futures is concerned. And recently we had seen the stock when earlier the Apex Court had actually directed the government to take their own decision. That point of time as well, we saw the stock inching above the levels of 10. We saw some, correction thereafter. However, it managed to hold on to its recent lows and it's back to 10 levels. So derivatives data isn't much, leverage, and hence, it increases the chance for the stock to inch towards the levels of 13. Once it moves above the levels of 11, 12, Vinny, I think the follow-on public offer when it had come at around those levels. Once it inches above those levels, sustains, then I think it will further inch higher only because things are positive or turning positive for the stock. In fact, even for the sector, as far as that is matter, this could benefit Indus Tower as well quite a lot because we have seen Indus Tower recently seeing good long build-up. In fact, the stock has managed to bounce back from 320 levels to almost 380 levels. And with this kind of a long build-up winning out here on Indus Towers, with this kind of a positive news with respect to Vodafone, I think this stock can also inch towards the levels of 440, 450. So both of these stocks have a good short to medium term uptrend likely. And Idea probably about the levels of 11, 12. I think many of those who might have stuck would get some relief above the level of 11, 12 levels, might inch towards 13, 14 going forward, at least in this quarter. And Indus Towers can inch towards 440, 450 as well.
That's music to their ears, indeed. Jay, thank you for sparing time and joining us. Sudip, thank you for joining in as well. And take a short break here on Markets Forward. We get you all the top corporate voices on the other side, along with the key events that you need to watch out for going into tomorrow's trade. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Markets Forward on CNBC TV18. Now let's go across to the key corporate voices that we had during the day. First up is Shriram Finance. The management says all auto segments except our equipments have shown growth. They had said that they added that credit growth is expected to continue with October being a peak period for business. Furthermore, the management revealed that the NBFC is not seeing any stress in commercial vehicle segment, and commenting on Money Control reports stating that Japan's Mitsubishi Financial Group is in advanced talks to buy 20% stake in Shriram Finance. The management said multiple discussions are underway and no proposal is before the board as yet.
Next up is Godrej Consumer. The management stated that they are seeing off-trade upstocking returning after GST disruptions. The company expects high single-digit volume growth in India, while the margins are expected to return to the normative range in the second half of the year. However, it expects the revenue and margin growth in Indonesia to take a few more months. GCPL is set to buy Mujtak from a Trilogy Solutions for 500 crore rupees. The management said that this acquisition will be margin accretive for the company.
And meanwhile, Vedanta's group CFO Ajay Goel says that its aluminium EBITDA is now at 5,500 crore rupees a quarter, and the focus on a cost of production has aided in cost per ton producing by 27%. He added that Vedanta Resources debt will trend lower towards $3 billion, while Vedanta Limited's net debt to EBITDA has also come down to 1.4 times. He adds that the demerger is expected to be done by FY26.
And before we wrap, we bring you some important events to watch out for going into tomorrow's session. Gaurav is here with the key details. Gaurav.
Well, yes, when we look at tomorrow, we have many earnings and important earnings. First, if we look at Nifty and the big companies, we have got SBI, Mahindra & Mahindra and Indigo. All these companies will come up with the earnings, so we'll watch out on that. But apart from that, we have got players like Allied Blenders, Adani Enterprises, Adani Ports, Home First Finance. Then we also have Payment Gateway District Park, Indian Hotels, Bluestone. All these players will come up with the earnings along with others. So definitely, it is going to be a day full of earnings, specifically if we look at financials as well as the consumer segment. But other than that, action from IPO segment is also likely to come. First is that Grow. It is likely to come up with the IPO. The IPO will open tomorrow for subscription. And on the other hand, Lenskart's IPO. Now tomorrow will be the last day for subscription for retail users. Remember, the IPO size is around 7,270 crores. So let's watch out on that. We have already seen IPO actually getting subscribed completely. Other than that, when we look at some of the action, stock specific, Hyundai Venue will be launched tomorrow. So we have already seen some movement on the back of the volume numbers. So definitely on the back of this news update also, we will be watching out on Hyundai Motors tomorrow. Lastly, from the global market, we do not see any major events. But first is that now US government shutdown. Now this will mark as a historic day because tomorrow will be the record day for the longest shutdown that we have seen for US government. So let's get ready to record a history. And also OpenAI. Now, that will make ChatGPT go free for Indian users from tomorrow. So that is also something which is not going to be a significant, impactful thing, but let's watch out on that as well.
Absolutely, Gaurav. Thank you so much for their key earnings to watch out for and other events as well. But with that, we're absolutely out of time on this edition of Markets Forward. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more news and updates on the other side.